I feel great being super low carb, 10, 15 grams, maybe even less. I'll feel phenomenal mentally. But if you time, I'm starting to recognize if you time your carbs properly, then you don't have that kind of fluctuation. You don't have that mental fog. You don't have the agitation that carbs can attribute to.
LSD, psilocybin, DMT.
So the last video I made to my channel was the final analysis of the carnivore diet. After doing it for a month, I gave my input of going strictly carnivore, going zero carbs, and after I finished that experiment, I went back to the ketogenic diet. And from what I've recognized on the carnivore diet, going strictly zero carb, once you implement back the carbs into your diet, when you're switching, whether you're just going back to like a paleo kind of diet or ketogenic, your body is going to almost go through a shock, because after you just stick to animal byproducts, zero carbs, your gut biome is going to have to adjust, because, not having fiber, not having carbs, your gut bacteria is going to change dramatically to just strictly meats. And the first week was interesting, because when I went keto, after the carnivore experiment, the first week was just, it was kind of brutal, because as I'm implementing carbs, the kinds of fluctuations of anxiety was a little bit more intense than I was anticipating. It's this feeling of just excessive energy. And it's not this subtle release like you would get from, like, let's just say olive oil or like an avocado, something that's saturated in high fat, which it can be slowly put into your body rather than, carbohydrates that can quickly be digested through. And for my body type, it responds horribly. It's too much energy for me, and my body doesn't know what to do with it. And so I realized that, I had to kind of go slow with it. So I was using, instead of just eating like rice or something, I would stick to low carb things like pickles, sauerkraut, maybe a little bit of onions here and there. And what that did was allow my gut to get used to the carbs, the fiber, back into my diet, and just slowly work in it. Each day I'd be like at 15 grams of carbs, then bump it up to 20 the next, and maybe by the end of the week I was around 30, because for myself, I'm highly active. Every single day I'm moving about 8-9 hours, physically demanding job, and for me, I can easily bypass around 75 to 100 grams of carbs on a ketogenic diet on a daily recommendation, but I still stick to around 50-40, because I just realize that I feel better. If I do get those carbs a little higher, then they'll usually come from like vegetables or things of that nature, or it would be something from like maybe a little bit of rice, like some white rice. What I also am pretty shocked by is when I'm back in the gym and have that additional, let's just say 40-50 grams of carbs, tremendous difference. Like the duration of time that I can actually postpone fatigue, it's dramatically increased. As well, implementing, I did this on the carnivore diet as well. I implemented L-glutamine with collagen into an intra workout. So while I was working out, I was drinking this, and that helped to minimize fatigue. But when I added in raw honey, so think about it this way, my body responds horribly to sugar. If I'm sitting down and just having a bowl of blueberries or raspberries, I can manage it to some extent, but once I push it, like if I were to eat a banana, that would just sit on me horribly, tons of anxiety. But when I'm training and the energy demand is at a very high intensity, and if I supplement in honey, raw honey, like maybe 35-40 grams of honey, there's none of that fluctuation of anxiety. That energy is just instantly used, and by the time I finish the workout, I'm back to kind of myself. I don't feel that agitation that I would normally from sugar. And I was listening to a podcast with Ben Pakulski talking about, on a ketogenic diet, when you implement some form of a carb while training. It'll actually lower down the cortisol response. So as you're training, the cortisol is going to be much lower, and as you finish, you won't have that taxation onto your nervous system. So that's an interesting thing that I also learned. Within that month, I'm trying to think what else I could add in. I recognized that I have a sensitivity to walnuts. I never knew that. I always just had them in with all my meals. I'd put in maybe like an ounce of walnuts. But once I took it out and implemented back in, I realized that my gut it has some kind of irritation to it that I just needed to adjust. So I just took that out and switched with macadamia nuts, and that's been phenomenal with feeling in my gut. But still to this day, I'm sticking to majority of my food is high fat and just high protein, sticking to majority of meats. I would say 85-90% of my diet is consisting of just meats. I'm sticking to lamb, sticking to beef, some Polish sausages, things in that kind of nature, eggs. And then I'll just supplement in some olive oil, some sauerkraut pickle, and I'll stick to that. And if I want to, on days where I'm not training, I'll add in some ginger powder, some cinnamon, have some potent kind of anti-inflammatory benefits from both compounds. As well, I bought this pancake mix. I'm trying to remember the exact brand, but it's made with coconut flour and other kind of byproducts that doesn't irritate my gut at all, has no wheat in it, it's gluten-free. And I'll use that as, if I finish post-workout, I'll supplement that in and restore a little bit of glycogen, because I'm starting to recognize, I feel great being super low carb, 10, 15 grams, maybe even less. I'll feel phenomenal mentally. But I'm starting to recognize if you time your carbs properly, then you don't have that kind of fluctuation. You don't have that mental fog. You don't have the agitation that carbs can attribute to depression, anxiety, OCD. There's a lot of studies pointing to certain individuals responding poorly to carbohydrates. And I think I'm one of those individuals due to the fact that anytime I have, a rich carbohydrate meal or something that is excessive in sugar, just Jesus Christ, I can't handle it. My body just starts freaking out. But after this month, I'm kind of glad I'm back on the ketogenic diet. I'm noticing that my gains in the gym, the duration of time I can train is much longer. As I was on the carnivore diet, as I finished it, I was 10 pounds under. But within a week and a half, I put on back that 10 pounds. And it's hard to say if it was water weight. It was hard to say if I really can't pinpoint what it was. But within a week and a half, I think it was about 2 weeks, I put back that weight on, so it had to be probably something with water mass. But ketogenic diet after a month on the carnivore diet, it's feeling great. I think it really comes down to recognizing what are you seeking. For me personally, I'm looking for performance. I'm looking for that midline where I can alleviate anxiety, I can alleviate stagnation, mental fog, but at the same time be athletically performing at a high performance, So I will do the raw honey in my training and have no negative responses, and recognizing that timing is key tremendously when it comes to carbs, because, I feel majority of people, when they do have carbs, they have it, at a bad time frame where they're just going to be sitting. If you're going to be having carbs and you're going to go after for like a 2-hour, 3-hour walk, then it's no issue. But work for your carbs. Don't just take them in gradually because you're just craving something. Find a actual time frame, calculate a time frame where you're going to expenditure a good amount of energy. Then it makes perfectly sense to implement carbohydrates in. You won't have that blood sugar response. Your body will be more mutually in a harmonious state. And so if you're trying to go carnivore, experiment with it for clarity. That's 100%. Like, you will get that guaranteed. But you might lose some weight. your gym performance might decrease due to the fact if you're not fully kind of fat adapted, that could be a contribution. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling now. But after a month on the ketogenic diet, it's been pretty damn good. I feel great. Anxiety has been pretty subtle. After about a week and a half with it, I've been great. But yeah, I haven't made any content about a month and a good month, 4 weeks it showed on my channel, and I just wanted to just get back into it, make some new videos. I'm going to be experimenting with, right in this corner right there, I got the red light therapy. So I'm going to do an experiment with the 30-day red light therapy and just let you guys know of how I'm feeling. There's a lot of studies showing of red light therapy beneficial for depression, anxiety, for mental mood disorders, because that specific light, when the red light, so it's about at 660 nanometers, and the other part of it is infrared, so these lights will penetrate about 1.5 inches into your body. So especially with your brain, it can help lower down inflammation. Any part it shines on, the light penetrates through, allows blood to circulate through, and helps regulate inflammation. So, there's a good amount of science pointing to that in and of itself is very beneficial for mood disorder, seasonal affect disorder, and all that. But yeah, other than that, guys, more content's going to be coming soon. That's going to be the next one, doing that for a month, and some other shit's going to be coming. But appreciate all the new subscriptions, the comments, and whatnot. Till next time, peace.